So welcome everybody. So I'm very happy that you were able to join us today. I'm Elisa Fornalè, I'm professor here at the World Trade Institute, and I'm also the gender coordinator. In 2019, we started this gender lecture series, and it was a little bit an experiment to try to bring in gender at the WTI, that it was not very present as a topic, and slowly we started to organize this gender series, and now we are already at the first cycle of our gender lecture, so it's quite an achievement. I think we are still here. During the COVID, we had a very huge problem because we could not do in person, so we switched online. And now I'm very proud to say that this is the first lecture that we do back in person. So we will still need some time to adjust to bring back also people, I think, in the audience. But at the same time, we have some followers online. So we have this mixed balance now. For me, it's really, really a great pleasure to welcome you, but in particular, Parinaz Tofighi, who accepted to give this lecture titled Assessing CEDAW's Committee Contribution to Enhancing Women's Political Participation Through General Recommendation 40. So the aim of today's gender lecture is really to explore a very topical issues, so that of women participation in political processes at all levels, so not only at domestic, but also international level. Parinaz will provide us insight on the role of the CEDAW committee, together with the implementation of Article 7, Article 8 of the CEDAW Convention, and in particular, she will introduce us the forthcoming General Recommendation number 40. And I think we have a really huge privilege to have with us Parinaz, because she has been one of the first to follow the drafting process since the beginning. So it's a unique perspective that she could bring in, and we are super close to get the General Recommendation adopted in October. So we close a little bit these 2 years of work. No? So Parinaz Tofighi is a PhD candidate and researcher in international law at the University of Bern. She received her master's degree from the University of Tehran, where she graduated with the highest honors. Parinaz was awarded the Swiss Government Excellence Scholarship, and she is actively involved in the Graduate School of Gender Studies of University of Bern, where she emphasizes her commitment to promoting gender equality. So without further waiting, I give you the floor again. Thank you a lot for joining us.
Thank you so much, and welcome for coming today. And I would like to give my regards to Dr. Elisa Fornale and Dr. Nicola Alessi for organizing these seminars and giving me this opportunity to be here to discuss about the CEDAW Convention. So, and also I would appreciate for those joining us with Zoom. So I hope they're hearing me, and wish you a good lecture today. And today I'm going to talk about this question, that how can we use CEDAW and general recommendation to boost and increase women political participation in international law, and specifically in the special and different region. As you know that today we are standing that main point of the gender equality, despite the progress of happening in international law or in the different countries, but still women representation in the politics and decision making is still low. Based on the statistic that last year is published by IUP, International Union of the Parliaments, the women representation in parliaments is around the 26.5%, and the women in the country's leader, as a country leaders, is a few of 10%, so less than 10% of the country's leaders are women. So it shows that with this progress, still we have less women in politics and decision-making system, and of course in the private sector as well. Today I'm going to overview a bit about the CEDAW Convention and about the women political participation under international rights law, and then I go through the general recommendation and specific rules of the CEDAW for improving women in decision-making. CEDAW Convention is about the elimination of discrimination against women. It got in force in 1981 and ratified by 189 members. It shows that this convention is almost universal, and because of the comprehensive approach to have it for women's rights is called Women's Rights Charter as well. So we can to focus on this convention for protecting women's rights in all spheres, and also is because its approach is regarding civil, political, economic, and cultural rights, and promote transformative gender equality and attention to affirmative action for increasing women's rights as well. Now you have in the screen, you can see that this is the convention structure. It's we can divide it to 4 sections. And section 1 is about the general rules of the convention. It's mostly regarding about the objective and the goals of the convention. And if you want to interpret the article, as you know, that we need to know about the goals and object of the convention in general. And then we have a specific rules, Article 7 and 8 regarding women in politics, also placed in this specific section. And we have a committee task, and then we have an interpreting rules for all convention. I would say that the Article 1 to 5 is a really important articles, and also I think that one of the most main part of the convention that makes this convention unique in under international law is you can find in this article, because it's defining the discrimination in all levels, and in the directly and indirectly discrimination. And also you can find the substantive equality. This is the first time we have on the text in the binding instrument that mention about the not formal equality, but also substantive equality needed for achieving for gender equality. And also we have a specific about the enforcement mechanisms and private sector responsibility regarding gender equality. And also we have an important article about the temporary special measures under Article 4 that makes this convention in this regard unique, because this is the first time we have temporary special measures to achieving gender equality for substantive approach. So, and also the other point of this article is parental sharing rules, sharing responsibility of parents. And we have this in this article, so as a general rule. So it's also important to have in our mind for the next step when we are going to see that general recommendation. Another important article under the convention is Article 5. In my opinion, is one of the most and important barriers that women face under international law or in the society, comes from this point that the culture or those negative stereotypes influence women's rights in the society. So based on this article, states should remove or modify those stereotypes or biases that mention or pushing women to be at home, not in public or in all spheres, but today our topic is about politics. So this article is important. I refer back to this article later. So we have Article 17 that mentioned about the CEDAW committee tasks. So CEDAW committee is with 23 experts that's working on women's rights in all over the world. So the task is monitoring implementation of the CEDAW based by state parties, and reviewing the reports submitted by states and issuing general recommendation and observation to states. And of course, there's other task for CEDAW if the countries ratified both optional protocol and convention, the individual and group of women facing with or violating by gender discrimination, they can bring the case to this committee, and they have to examine or investigate those cases as well. So in general, the CEDAW Convention, it was impressive work under international human rights law. And you can see that the achievement was really obvious, and it was for standards for women protection and attention for substantive equality, and also find that the roots of the discrimination that women face, like the cultural barriers that women facing in their life. So the other points of the, before we're going to talk about the GR, because GR refer to women in politics, we should know that it's the first time we have a protect of women in politics under international law. I have to say no, because we already have regulation under Article 21 of the Human Rights Declaration, and also Article 25 of ICCPR, International Component Civil and Politics. Under this article, we have a general rules of the participation in a politic, but we should read this article with other article of the covenant, with Article 3 about the gender equality, and Article 26 about equality before law, and Article 2 as well. So it's not specific about the women. Article 7, it was the first time, Article 7 of the CEDAW, it was the first time we have a comprehensive approach for women in politics as a voting, as a candidate or representation in a national or international level and in all the sector. So you can see that how much the coverage of the Article 7 is broader than Article 25. But of course, for those countries that are not ratified the articles or convention of the CEDAW, they should following the Article 25. Here you can see that the comparative comparison between the CEDAW and ICCPR. Under the ICCPR, we don't have a specific rules about the intersectional discrimination that women face, or any cultural barriers women struggling with, or any temporary special measures, and also private responsibility or parental responsibility regarding to women's in politics. So here differences between both of them, but they are going to cover each other and complete each other. They don't have any conflict together. So it means that under international law, we can follow the both of convention. And recently, I've been researching on a Human Rights Committee comments on or observations. I found that the Committee of Human Rights working on to follow or align to the CEDAW committee approach for women in politics, like reporting on, if I remember correctly, Tunisia, this refers to gender quotas, and also removing negative stereotypes. This means that they following the perspective of the CEDAW. So, and we have another general recommendation for interpreting Article 7 because in 1997, the CEDAW committee decided to publish another general recommendation to explain more about Article 7 and 8. So it was a landmark recommendation that time because it's mentioned about ensuring women equal participation substantively and consider a limit about the intersectional discrimination, and also consider that we need to achieving for full participation of the women. But there is some problem regarding this GR as well, like limit focus on private sector roles and lack of a specific target for a progress measurement, and limit guidance on temporary special measures like quotas or reserve seat, and limit focus on intersectional discrimination and lack of enforcement of accountability mechanisms and monitoring system. And also, I would say that in data collecting of states is obvious. So because of those problem, CEDAW committee decided to work on another new general recommendation, because they found that for achieving the governance, or now is enhancing global governance, we need to considering the different problem now happening in our world, like climate change. We had the pandemic before, and also the conflicts now is in some areas we need to remove from traditional governments to new governance model. And of course, I mentioned about the statistics. It shows that we didn't achieve to women in politics in decision-making system. And the other problem was we need to diversity to more balanced policies, better resource allocation, and inclusive development. And also a study shows that when women are part of the participation or in decision-making bodies, the concern of half of the population, such as gender-based violence, healthcare, and social welfare are addressed comprehensively. So we need more women in politics. And the other reason it's important is about the 30% quotas is mentioned on the Beijing Platform of Action. The CEDAW consider that is not enough, this 30%, and this makes maybe send this message, wrong message that the women less in politics is acceptable. So we need work on it. And of course, we now close to the SDG 2030, and we didn't achieve yet to the one of the goals under number 5. So we had the women participation under those instruments that I mentioned earlier, but for achieving active, inclusive, and substantive participation, we need a still gap. So the CEDAW committee comes to fill out this gap, not just specifically mention women be in the voting system, because already all of countries ratify or having the voting for women, but now we need some more women with the power, the same power with men in the decision-making system in general, in private and public sector. So the GR is going to fill out this gap. Now I'm going to talk about the general recommendation 40. As you mentioned, Dr. Fernale, it's not ratified, it's not comes out yet. It's going to come out on October. So everything we're talking today is just on the draft, and I'm going to give some comments or suggestions, and I'm not sure it's applied or not. Just it's going to discuss about this. This is the topic of the GR, is about the equal and inclusive representation of women in decision-making system. I would add here substantive terms because, in my opinion, the goals of the CEDAW was achieving substantive equality. So here it's the time to remind the states that the goals of the CEDAW is substantive equality, and we are going to achieving to that. So in my opinion, it's better to have a substantive terms here, like equal, inclusive, and substantive representation of women in decision making. The other main point of this GR is attention to gender parity as a norm. In several points or a statement of the convention committee, you can find that they mention parity now is a fundamental human rights, or parity now is not the cause, it's a norm. So we should consider this norm for passing the problem that we already had. There's several reasons we can talk about this, why CEDAW priorities to the parity as a norm. One of them should be sustainability of gender equality, or addressing deep-rooted gender biases, empowering women beyond legal quotas, building global consensus on gender equality, and promoting or achieving substantive equality, and not just in formal level and also in substantively, and achieving more international influence and advocacy. The advantage of this parity is important because ensure the balanced representation across all sectors, and clear 50-50 target of the gender equality provides a concrete of major benchmark for achieving gender equality in decision-making positions and advancing overall quality. And of course, it's help for address and reduce barriers for women leadership and give more best model for the new generation to following political leaders in future. But there's a problem in this parity is because of we couldn't find that how the CEDAW considering the merits of the people or qualification of the people. This is the problem regarding this GR, and also we couldn't find that about the between the temporary measures that we already have under the convention, Article 4, and here parity as a 50-50% for a long-term goal. So for in this regard, we have talked about some suggestions and comments here. And gender parity aims for a lasting balance and should be viewed as a permanent goal and long-term object. Unlike quotas, they are often seen as a temporary corrective measures. So it's better CEDAW to define this problem or issue regarding this goal. And achieving this representation should also mean that the women have equal power and influence in decision-making process, not just in the numerical thing, because we need to ensure that the women have the same power if they are in the half of the seats of the parliaments, or they have the same power or not. And the other points can be discussed here is about the achieving perfect parity can be challenging, and flexibility in application and adopting strategies to local context may be necessary here. We need to find that also applicable for different contexts or different countries as well. And the other point or suggestion is we can mention is about the flexible approach. It's already applied in Norway country. They have a 40-60 balance of gender. It's mentioned that they are in the good progress of equality in the country in all sector. So it would be an idea that the CEDAW maybe to decide to have this idea, because we have a more considering those qualification and merits. So it can be an idea. It's just, I would say that it's just suggestion. And the other topic of under GR is about the intersectional and diversity in representation. This GR recognizes diverse identities and specific challenges faced by marginalized groups and ensuring a more inclusive approach to gender equality. But in the other side, we couldn't find that a specific rule for those underrepresented group like LGBTQ+ and other minority women, or lack of focus on intersection of gender and disability in decision-making rights. It would be better we have for those disability women that facing different intersectional discrimination covered in this CEDAW as well. It's covered, but not in too much or in the all part of the convention GR. And so recommendation or suggestion in this point, we can mention that the CEDAW would be address intersectional challenges directly and promote visibility for diverse background and tackle historical and practical barriers to ensure inclusive representation for all women, and establish inclusive benchmark and regularly monitor progress in this regard. And the other important thing that CEDAW mentioned about transparency and accountability and establish mechanisms for this. But it's clear there's a lack of enforcement strategies and risk of superficial compliance. It would be better be more clarify these mechanisms and evaluate and adopt the process for effectiveness in this regard. About the capacity building and education, so we can find the CEDAW mentioned about early education and address biases from young age people and supports women empowerment and skill development. But the potential of the traditional roles, again, we can see here. It's better to fostering training and mentorship for women, and it's specifically mentioned about this under the GR. Regarding economic empowerment, this GR mentioned link between the politic and economic empowerment and tackle for structural obstacle in both areas. But there is a problem regarding sector resistance, like challenging in male-dominated fields is obvious again here. So it's better to see the mention about the supportive policies like foster financial independence and leadership and gender responsive budgeting along budgeting with women's need. So it's need to mention as well. The other important of the or impressive work by CEDAW is you can find here about the digital and technology spheres. Now we are in the new world of that we're using the technology now all of our life influencing by AI. So in future maybe it's getting more and the problem is getting worse. So that would be better. We have these rules, but it's better to ensure online safety and digital participation and use platform for advancing gender equality to cover all problem and support of the women's right and protecting women's right with the new digital tech. So I think that we have another seminars in this regard. So I will recommend to, if you would like about to know about this, join to that seminar as well. And the other points is about the climate change. We have this rules, or we have this comments in this under this GR that mention about women and highlighting women in environmental board or in environmental decision making, because it's a statistic or data shows that the women sometimes influenced by climate change more than men. So it would better we have women in the environmental board or the decision making. And I think one of the last case was Switzerland case in the Human Rights Court is mentioned about the old women facing more or influencing more by the climate change or global warming. So it's now is real life, so it's better we have a women under the climate change decision making. And the other points of this GR mentioned about the women in the process of the peace. Some states that still have a conflict in internal or international. So it's better we include women in the whole process of the peacemaking, and then not just in the board, also in the negotiation level as well. The other point of the GR is about the private sector. We have attention to the private sector as well. We couldn't have this in the previous GR, so it's also impressive work by CEDAW committee, but we need to still promote policies for equitable family roles and challenging traditional gender roles through campaign, because still in this regard, we're struggling with culture and those negative stereotypes. And about the normative framework, there is a need for a stronger enforcement mechanism at the national level to ensure effective implementation. So all of this back to the states and should apply by states. It's better to ask them to changing their rules regarding this GR. But now I'm going to talk a bit more in general comments. I can add to GR. It's about the Article 5 of the CEDAW, as mentioned earlier, about the culture, modify or removing culture. It would be better that here CEDAW mentioned that those states have a reservation on this article to removing or as soon as possible start to removing or withdraw those reservation on this article, because for achieving equality, we cannot struggling with those negative stereotypes. So it would be better be removing at first level and then be through to applying the other recommendations. It's better also about the link between the equality and democracy. Democracy should be mentioned here, but not the democracy just in politics, democracy also in economy. social democracy should be mentioned here. We didn't mention, the CEDAW never mentioned about the system of, political system of the government, but we know that for achieving equality, we need to democratic government, so it's better, this is the time to, if we can talk about the democracy or level of the political system for achieving equality. And the other point is mentioned on the GR is about the bring the women and men in the same power. It's a bit difficult to achieving for this because it would be better to see the define this, how they want to measure or what is the criteria of the measuring this power. So we need to know that it's not clear under the GR. And also the other important things is about the importance of family role. We have to support the both parents to achieving in women or men in politics or professional work and the private work. And the other points I would add to the CEDAW is maybe is not in the context, but it's mostly is referred to the structure. It would be better using the strength vocab or terminology for states, and also sometimes it's better to use the plural word of terminology because it's referred to the group, and we need to apply for the group. And the other point that is about the regional consideration, I found that I would say that this is my opinion, because I find that mostly this GR regarding to those countries, they passing the women situation in the first level. Now they're going to talk about the women in leadership or women in as a leader in all the spheres. For those countries, they are not in this context of the global north, or in the countries they are less developed or south global countries. It's a bit difficult to talking about this goal for achieving for parity, like the 50% of women in leadership. I will give you example in MENA region because I'm from Iran. So I would give you example that the people or women living there is struggling with their basic rights for vote, rights for having custody, right for divorce, right for education, right for abroad, going abroad, right for all of basic rights, for decision for their family and to be working out, and everything it depends on the men. So it's difficult to talk about women in public spheres is it in the easiest way. Because the people, the culture is strong and religious is all over this region. It still exists, and there's a strict rules in this regard and negative stereotypes. And sometimes the women also believe that they don't have a right. And so we need to awareness them and also increase their knowledge about their rights. Here I have a chain that I call this a golden diagram. Women face different barriers in this region. There's a lots of conflict or war happening there. There's a migrant women, they went to the other country as a refugee or as a migrant. So they don't have a right to be standing as an election or to be in public because they're struggling with their rights for healthcare, with the caring their kids or family. And it's a problem. So it would be better the international authority consider that what is the consequence of their recommendations or their rules. For example, regarding maternity leave, in Iran, we have a 6 to 9 months maternity leave for women. At the beginning, because of the enforcement of the international labor law or labor organization, we have these rules, and it's improved women's maternity leave, of course. But at the end, the consequences means that shows that the women after these 6 or 9 months cannot back again to their position, or if they back, they should start again in the beginning. So it doesn't mean that they have the same position they had before. It would be better that the international authority or like ILO or now CEDAW consider that what's the consequence of the decision for those countries they are struggling with the basic rights. Here now you can see that the Iran women in parliament, at the 2023, women just take a seat 5%, less than or the previous like in 1980, 45 years ago. So it shows that there's a backlash and we're back again. And so here the place, this is just example. This is a place that, of course, there's a progress in this region. I cannot ignore it, but we need to see that what's going on in the future and how we can influence or having the same result in all over the world. So it means that we need to consider the context, different contexts of the countries. And this is one of the main points I would add here. So at the end, this GR recommendation 40, it was an impressive work by the committee. I really appreciate for their work for issuing this GR. And I hope that this result comes out in the best way and in the, we can to improve women's rights. But of course, there is a problem and we need to work on it and we are still in progress and it's up to us to how we want to change our world and using these instruments or recommendations. Thank you so much for attention. I'm here for.
A lot. It has been super interesting, and as I said before, I think your entry point also giving us an overview of the geographical impact is very unique. So thank you again. I will give the floor to our public here, if not also our participant online. I think Nicolau is better placed to see if we have a question from the people who are following us online. Yeah, please, go ahead. Sure.
Also, big comment, a small comment on the enforcement mechanism we have, because usually the United Nations or these institutions put this like measures so the countries can like look towards what they want to do with gender, but there is not enforcement mechanisms. For example, in the Middle East countries and also South American countries, usually they will like say, I'm following this, but then there are not possibilities that you're usually like enforce them or make them usually go and do the things. So for example, and that is a big problem, I guess, because and also I agree with what you say about like the more developed countries, they have this line where they're now looking at gender with women leadership, but now some certain countries don't even have the basic rights. And so what do you think about like how can you make this enforcement mechanism more like actually enforce those countries, I guess?
Yeah, I see your point. Because unfortunately, the nature of this general recommendation is not binding. So we cannot enforce or force the countries to apply these measures. So that's the other thing that we just can do is awareness the people and using that to improve the knowledge or training the people about their rights. Not just women, of course, also men. Especially in the region of Middle East. I think we don't need just to improve the women's about they knows about their rights. Also, the men should knows about what the women have rights. So it's something that is kind of education and improving women. Awareness is the first level of to achieving the goals, because at the end we should apply those measures in the country. It's a national or internal goals. So I think that would be ideal that to just give them more knowledge about their rights, then step by step to achieving in the international level.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting. I got a question on, is there any body trying to, you mentioned that it is hard to, for example, measure power and how that shifts. Is the CEDAW committee trying to do statistics, look into the application of the law in the real world?
So thank you for your question. Because this is just now is a point. So we already have that the CEDAW under the GR, there's a text that we need to have a women in the same power with men. So now the measures is not, unfortunately, it's not anything mentioned about how we're going to measure this problem. And also I researched before, and I didn't find that any data about that how we should go through to this point. And I think it's still need the work about how we should measure this power. It's difficult in real life, I would say.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it. On one slide, you compared Article 25 of CEDAW and Article 7 of ICCPR. And my question is, which one of both contracts is more important? Because the formulation was different in both.
Thank you again for that question. The ICCPR is a more general, and it's not specifically about the women. When we are going to talk about the women's rights, of course, CEDAW Convention is covered the most and specific of the women's rights. But unfortunately for those countries, they didn't ratify. It's not so much, it's just 6 countries. So if they ratified ICCPR without any reservation, they should apply under the ICCPR. But for others that ratified the both, they should follow the both convention, but of course, about the women's in politics, that would be better for CEDAW Article 7.
Again, on the second question, you have mentioned that it is important that both parents will agree. And my question is, what will happen when just one of the parents agree? Does it count or not?
I didn't.
With one of these articles that was just mentioned.
Sharing parental responsibility.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. And which one, what will happen when they don't share the responsibility?
So we don't have any enforcement or measures to show that what's going on as the result of this. So now we are just going to talk about that it's the first time we're talking about the sharing parental responsibility. That's why this is the question that how we're going through to this sharing responsibilities. It's also now with this GR, it means that 50-50 is not always maybe regarding this, but maybe in future it comes to mind that here also we need to go through with this idea of the 15% of the responsibility or not. So I see your point, but I think it's difficult to talking about this measuring. Unfortunately, we don't have any measure or criteria for measure of this problem. It comes in a society. So, but of course, the international organizations such CEDAW can help in this regard, or those feminists that we working on it to help us to achieve this.
Thank you for your presentation. For the general recommendation number 40, because it's called a general recommendation, so it's not legally binding for its nature. So maybe unfortunately, it's still up to member states to decide whether they want to adopt the recommendation and how they are going to adopt that. So how do you give it a stronger like legal basis?
So I think because now is, thank you for the question. Of course, because now the most of the countries ratified this, and after the like is going to apply or adopting by different countries, it comes to a bit jurisprudence under international law, or is it creating norm, or at the end, if the most of the countries start to adopting, is making the customary law afterwards, and maybe in this perspective, we can enforce the states to adopt this. But of course, we cannot enforce them for adopting, but with the different mechanism of monitoring and receiving the data and data collection, how we should ask them to respond to our question and how they should structure or frame their reports, we can push them to apply this general recommendation. So this is the CEDAW committee role to ask and frame this reports structure and ask the states to give them with the like how the reporting system is help here, in my opinion, because we cannot enforce them, of course, but we can ask them answer to this question. Please give us this data. So in this situation, we can ask them to add on. It's just my opinion. So if the others have a time here.
Thanks a lot for this very interesting presentation. I think it was really, really interesting and important what you mentioned about these regional specialities that should be in mind doing this recommendation. And I was just wondering, do you have an idea how the differences or the diversities from these areas and the special needs can be met? How should the committee work with whom? That really this that they know what are the differences, the challenges, and what are the needs. I hope it is understandable what I mean.
Thank you. If I'm going to answer wrong, just let me to your question. I think that here is because we don't have a like in Middle East like organization like EU as a European Union, so it's a bit difficult with having different region diversity. But it would be better like to the CEDAW committee or experts when working on this kind of GR, they're going to or observing or visiting those countries and or asking them to come and to involve themselves to issuing this kind of general recommendations, or not just having the like conference or discussion just in the Europe or US, also going to the different in Asia, in Middle East, to having the conversation and giving the people opportunity to talk, or of course the people they are more interested or they are at the universities person level. So that would be ideal to have it, different diversity approach to the recommendations.
I wanted to ask you, I really enjoy how you presented also the advantages and also the challenges that we risk to face once the recommendation will be adopted. I wanted to get your views if you think we will get more challenges to implement or to advance the implementation of Article 7, or Article 8? Because we had a huge discussion on how to improve the participation at international level. So I don't know if the expectation have been matched a little bit with this new instrument, or we risk to see this imbalance still again.
Thank you for your question. I couldn't find that there's a problem between both of them, but of course, we are not achieved for international level. It's difficult to talk in international level because it comes like because of the different political system of the countries have. Like in Iran, you should be in politics or be active in the politics to achieve to international level. So if you are not the politicians on the national level, it's a bit difficult to go in international. So I think we need to pass the first national level and go through the international level. It's my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think it's in this GR also it's focused more on the national level because that's I think a good idea because we need to improve at the national level in countries and comes to the international level at the end, or is the next goals of the this GR. But of course, there needs more work, also in the Article 8 as well, because the same, this problem is the same for both levels.
Yeah, maybe I would just,
Sure.
as a last question, I just wanted to ask something really similar to some other questions that were already asked, and also something else. First, it was really interesting. Thank you very much. And I found very fascinating the concept of parity. The general recommendation makes a very strong case for this principle. So I already did some research on that, but I was wondering if you know more about this, if it's a principle that is resulted more from international practice. Maybe some organizations are already doing that. I already know that some states are putting in place this principle in some constitutions. So maybe, yeah, I was wondering if you had any more information about that. And then about the Global South approach or missing Global South approach of the general recommendation. I think that is a very important point. And I was also wondering if you have any ideas on how we can add this perspective to concrete general recommendations. So maybe I was thinking about the idea of adding some kind of flexibility, taking into account different level of development in this area of different regions.
About the parity, as you already mentioned, that is, of course, is mentioned in some countries, is not so much. I think fewer than maybe 5 countries, fewer than they have a parity in the constitution. But of course, it's a bit difficult. I found that I read all of the comments on the GR or from the different institute, organization, or scholars. I found that achieving this parity in real life is a bit difficult, and we couldn't find that under this GR. It's impressive for now we have standards for equality, but the other side in the reality is not clear at how we should apply this parity, and I think this is still the gap for in this regard. And about I don't know, I answered to your question. And about the flexibility of of course, this can be one of the way to show that we have a different diversity and give them a bit, start with them with process. We should consider that some countries, when they need a process, they cannot jump to the leadership. They need to go and step by step to achieving leadership. So here the CEDAW should be consider that and start for those countries that are not in the same level. They should apply in this, and then achieving for leadership or in decision-making system. And it would be also mentioned about the culture. I think I couldn't find that exactly about removing negative stereotypes so much in the GR. Here is the time to talk about this more clearly and to ask the states to remove. And because of that, because most of the problem of the region is from culture. It's also one of the another idea that, as I mentioned, withdraw the reservation yes, help them to remove.
I think we can come into our end. So again, a big thank you to Parinas for preparing such a rich presentation. Really was a huge work. Thank you a lot. And also thank you everybody for attending, Nicolò for organizing. So yeah, we hope to see you soon in the next, and you will continue to follow us now that we met. And again, thank you a lot. I wish you a very nice afternoon to everybody, also to the people who are following us online. So again, thank you a lot.